What do you want? You think I'm a puppet, huh? You think I'm a puppet, gonna do a little...
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're breaking down the most iconic character tropes in horror films and exploring how they've evolved over the years.
Cut, Casper. That's a wrap.
The Jester. A large chunk of slasher films sit on the thin line between fun and fright, and no trope embodies that more than the Jester. All work and no play makes even horror diehards a little antsy. So, that's where the comic relief comes in, injecting a bit of levity between bouts of killer carnage.
Come on, Sid. For me, it could be fun. Okay, whatever.
Yeah? Nice. Cool, you guys bring food, all right?
Fittingly, you can always count on them dying in hilarious fashion, too. Usually, with an iconic last line.
I think I almost just pissed my pants.
You did piss your pants.
What?
The role hasn't changed too much over the years, but that's partially because it's a somewhat recent addition to the classic slasher cast. Since it took a few decades for slashers to fully embrace the comedic shtick, the comic relief has stayed pretty consistent thus far. Whether they're a goofy best friend, a bumbling cop, or just someone with a good sense of humor, you can always rely on them to get some laughs.
Close that. Hi, I know what you're thinking. This is weird, huh? But I can handle it.
The Scholar. Also known as the nerd or brains, this type is often categorized as a walking stick in the mud. But it's hard not to root for them nonetheless. After all, they're usually the only ones thinking with logic. The Scholar will rightfully point out flaws in the rest of the character's decision-making. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't split up to explore this abandoned house when there's a bloodthirsty killer on the loose.
Then we just leave the roads altogether. Drive as far as we can into the forest, and we go on foot from there.
However, their brains don't always save the day. In fact, the Scholar is usually long gone by the time the final act rolls around. Probably because, if they stayed alive, they keep poking holes in the script.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1. You can never have sex.
The Scholar is an interesting trope in that it hasn't evolved so much as it's been dispersed into other caricatures. Over the years, slasher characters on the whole have begun wising up, eliminating the need for a sole voice of reason. They haven't completely faded away, but they're not quite as special as they were back in the day.
So why are you so sure that the killer's working by the rules of a horror remake?
Well, the original stab structure is pretty apparent.
Yeah, 2 kids killed in a house when their parents are away.
And then the school's hot chick savaged beyond recognition.
We all know where it goes from there.
A party.
Exactly. A party.
The Promiscuous One. More interested in getting laid than escaping death, every slasher in the 70s and 80s came with some form of, well, a woman embracing her desires. You get the point.
You want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
Oftentimes, this scantily clad character is loud, brash, and not afraid to say what they think. They're also positioned as something of a moral foil to the virginal leading lady. In layman's terms, the Promiscuous One almost always gets it on, and usually dies for it. If all the violence didn't get these films an R rating, the full frontal definitely would.
See anything you like?
However, as slashers began to push beyond the idea of purity versus desire, the Lady of the Night changed too. Most films reimagined the archetype as an edgy best friend type. They're still spunkier than the true leading lady, but have a lot more agency over their role in the story. That doesn't always mean they die with more dignity, though. The Stoner. At first glance, you might think this is an offshoot of the Jester. And in a way, you're right. But there's one important distinction between the two. The Stoner isn't here to crack jokes or have fun. They're just here to vibe.
People in this town drive in a very counterintuitive manner. That's what I have to say.
Do you want to spend the weekend in jail? Because we'd all like to check out my cousin's country home.
Marty, honey, that's not okay.
Statistical fact. Cops will never pull over a man with a huge bong in his car.
Similar to how early slashers played into the idea of lust as a sin, they also condemned drugs and rock and roll. That's where the Stoner comes in, traditionally on their way to an early grave. Still, we have to admit, there's something endlessly entertaining about someone realizing there's a killer out there and deciding to light up. It's an excellent character type to play with. So much so, recent flicks have expanded the stoner's role by giving them some traits of the scholar. It leans into an easy joke that the only way to behave rationally in a horror movie is if you're under the influence. Either way, the stoner is the only one you can confidently say dies at peace.
Julie, what you got, car trouble?
Actually, it's Barry. He's had way too much to drink, and we're trying to keep the upchuck out of the new car.
Well, doesn't look so new anymore.
The Jock. No pre-2000s teen group is complete without someone to stir the pot. Full of sexism, swagger, and sex drive, the Jock is the quintessential hyper-masculine himbo. You know the kind. He's the star football player and dates the queen bee, aka the Promiscuous One. He's basically the tormentor from any teen drama ever, just plopped into a movie where a masked killer runs around with a knife. It goes about as well as you'd expect. The Jock almost never makes it to the end. More often than not, they die alongside the Promiscuous One after bumping uglies. And, just like their partner in arms, the Jock has also become increasingly more sympathetic as the years go by. In some cases, he's missing entirely, instead merged with the scholar into a good-spirited boyfriend. That doesn't help their survival rate though. Instead of getting it on, they most likely die in some valiant bid to save the others. That, or they end up part of the killer's plan in some dramatic twist. As they say, it's always the boyfriend.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
The token minority. The days where horror icons only targeted upper-class white kids are long over. That's not to say slashers are particularly diverse though. Starting in the late 90s and early 2000s, it seemed like every group of victims-to-be had one black friend. Occasionally, they interchanged for another minority, but very seldom was there more than one. They also got seriously shortchanged on screen time, usually being the first or second of the main cast to bite the dust. It's a shame, since these token minorities traditionally step into the role of the scholar, which makes them inherently more likable than anyone else. Even with the disappointing results, it's still a far cry from the earliest slashers, which were as diverse as white bread. On the bright side of things, several notable directors of late have brought a distinctive cultural lens to other corners of the horror genre.
Fairer skin has been in favor for the past, couple of hundreds of years, but now the pendulum is swung back. Black is in fashion.
Unfortunately, when it comes to slashers, being anything other than straight and white is usually still a sign to start writing your will.
I'm gay! I'm gay! Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
The final girl. You know 'em, you love 'em. It's the leading lady herself. There's not many tropes in all of fiction as firmly established as the final girl. The Laurie Strodes, Nancy Thompsons, Sidney Prescotts, and Julie James. They're almost always defined by their moral uprightness.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
While their comrades are off engaging in all forms of debauchery, the final girl remains pure and innocent, which saves her from the killer's rampage until the obligatory third-act bloodbath. Or at least, that's how it went for decades. And we mean decades. The trope became so ingrained in pop culture, modern slashers began to play on those expectations. Nowadays, it's not uncommon for there to be a fake-out heroine who dies in the first act, sometimes as early as the opening scene. To go along with that, final girls themselves have slowly become more complex. Just like the Promiscuous One grew beyond their lustful origins, final girls are no longer solely defined by their virginity.
The virgin. Me. Virgin. We work with what we have.
These days, it's all about the character's ingenuity or connection with the killer. Even so, final girls are still an ironclad staple in slasher films, and quite frankly, we wouldn't have it any other way. What's your favorite horror trope? Let us know in the comments below.